Welcome to Defence Connect's The Progress Report, the show spotlighting the women shaping Australia's defence and national security.
Welcome to Defence Connect's Progress Report, the podcast where we explore the stories, careers and experiences of women working across Australia's defence and national security sectors. I'm your host, Tash Taylor, and in each episode, I'm sitting down with industry professionals to talk about their journeys, personal growth, mentorship, and what it really takes to build a meaningful career in one of the country's most complex and essential industries. My guest today is Sheila Maria Gough Kenyon, co-founder and chief operating officer of Starbound Space Solutions and national committee member for the Australian Space Diversity Alliance. Now, for those of you listening, I'm here with Sheila recording at the Australian Space Summit and Exhibition, in which the lovely Australian Space Diversity Alliance are our amazing diversity partners. Look, the event runs across 2 days and finishes off with our fantastic awards evening tomorrow night. But look, so far for me, I've really enjoyed the event. A highlight would be the ELO2 rovers. I don't know if you've seen them. We have a little sand pit, Sheila, and they look pretty cool. But look, Sheila did just arrive today and the poor thing was stuck at the airport because of the dust storm. So I know we've sort of just grabbed you and brought you onto the podcast, but how are you feeling today? How are you going?
I'm feeling really lucky to be sat up here talking to you, Tash. So thank you so much for inviting me on, and thanks for your support, as always, of the Australian Space Diversity Alliance as well. The ASD is, as you know, doing such important work. So to have partners that can support us and give us this kind of a platform is really, really important, and thank you for that. Yes, I am feeling like I'm still running, but I'm
just
here.
Landed here.
Yeah, I'm here. Flew in from the Gold Coast this morning. So, yes, Starbound, our Gold Coast. We're based on the Gold Coast in Queensland. We also have a space at the National Space Industry Hub, so we're up and down a bit to Sydney.
Beautiful.
But it's really great events like this. It's all of those people that I see on video calls very often during the year,
Yeah.
and then to have everyone gather and the whole community be here is really special. So I'm excited to, after our chat here, going around and saying hi to everybody.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Look, I thought we'd sort of jump into it because I'd be really, really interested to know. I know that you mentioned to me previously that you had a really non-traditional pathway into the space sector, which in itself is a very, very niche industry. So could you give me a little bit of a breakdown of how you actually ended up here today?
For sure, yeah. And I mean, people who've heard me speak before have probably heard this story a lot, but I think it's really important because I think people think of the space industry as an industry that's not for them if they don't have, a degree in engineering and they haven't pursued that path from very early days.
Yeah.
That it's not an industry somebody can kind of pivot to, right? Or
Exactly.
or join later in a career. So I think that sharing my story helps other people see that if they love space, that there are so many different types of careers in space. It's not just engineers, it's not just building spacecraft, right? So
No.
From my background, I'm a psychologist. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so very, very different. My PhD is in psychology, so I'm a cognitive scientist. So not a space engineer in any way, shape or form. So how that fits with the work I do at Starbound now, essentially we design AI tools that capture tacit knowledge to accelerate great engineering. So that's what we do. But all of that management, I guess, of human knowledge and knowing how humans work and think is something that isn't, it's really important in any industry. And I have so many times been sat at a table with people who are so super qualified in space in a way that I have never considered myself to be.
Yeah.
But having a different perspective, even when it comes to things like space missions, right? What are the deliverables of this space mission? What's the outcomes? Looking at it in a different way and thinking, what are the social outcomes? What are the other things that are going to happen as a result of this? Not necessarily just the engineering first point objective deliverable, but everything else that goes along with that in a space mission. So yeah, it's really, really great. But my pathway, so I did undergraduate degrees, psychology and English literature. I then did a master's in education. I was a high school teacher.
Oh my God, okay,
yes.
so you really pivoted here to you've got so many
yeah.
lenses that you can bring in. That's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And then had my children. So I had my eldest when I was 24. So I was
beautiful.
Yeah, I was a relatively young mum. And again, people sometimes see, well, I have children. Like I don't have capacity to do something new. I did my PhD with one baby and then another baby mid PhD, and went into academia then and government roles. And I've worked in government and academia roles internationally. Because I've moved around a lot, and here comes, I guess, the link to the space industry. But my husband is a space engineer, so together we've lived and worked in 5 countries in the last 10 years. So we've moved.
You
a
are
lot.
living the dream here.
Yeah, and always within the international space community, right? So
beautiful.
I knew the people, and as you know, it's such a wonderful, welcoming community.
Yeah.
And a lot of like-minded people, right? People who are interested in things beyond, I guess, the usual. So I always felt very at home in the community. So when there was an opportunity for me to pivot my career into an actual space role, I was so excited. And yeah, that's my pathway. But, as you know, there are so many other pathways to working in space. People with, policy backgrounds, anything. Now there's going to be space tradies soon, you know what I mean? So
space tradies?
Well, it's what's going to need to happen, right?
You're right, though. I guess that is... I guess you're right. We are moving toward that, aren't we?
Towards needing everything. Everything we have on Earth we're going to need in space, right? So
eventually we're going to be living on Mars.
That's exactly right, yeah. And yeah, so people don't realise how close they are already to being qualified to work in the space industry. So it's,
I feel like it's great to see your perspective, because like you said, you didn't come from like a space engineering background, but you still managed to find your passion within this industry and then work your way to where you are now. And I know that for you as well, you're so passionate about being part of the Australian Space Diversity Alliance. Now, for those listening, could you give us a little bit of, a little bit of a elevator pitch, if you can,
for sure,
on what it is that you guys, the amazing work you're doing, what you're achieving, because I think it is quite unique, especially to this sector.
The Australian Space Diversity Alliance has not been around for a very, very long time. One of the very first events was actually this event last year, and you guys supported us then and supporting us again this year. Essentially, we're a group of people that are working to provide support to enact systemic change. Our primary objective is really to increase the participation of marginalised groups in the space industry.
That's wonderful.
So be that through being able to signpost to resources that people can maybe not be aware of, to helping organisers like yourselves be more aware of, how to be actively inclusive. And most people want to be, right? So the motivation is there, but the how-to is sometimes really tricky for people. And if it's not their field or it's not their area of interest, then it's not people not wanting to do things the best way, but not really, like where do we start, right? So it's really amazing to see, Momentum Media taking us on board as diversity partners to get the advice and to show that you're actually doing rather than just kind of wanting to be inclusive. So
I think off the back of that as well, you guys really helped us, because I know we created a sort of safe sensory area, and this is something I think brand new this year. I think first for Momentum Media, for people that don't know, we run over 100 events each year, and for you guys to come and actually give us some advice around how we can make this a really safe space for neurodivergent people is fantastic for us and helps us learn as well and build for our future events. And I think it's something that quite a few people have utilised today, and hopefully will be tomorrow as well.
Yeah, well, we know that the proportion of neurodivergent people in the space industry is higher than in the population as a whole, which may not be massively surprising, right? But yeah, it's really, really common. It's not something that I've seen at industry events. So I have in as you know, my career has been a little bit of many things. So I have in other fields, but not necessarily more industry driven education conference type events like this. So really amazing. And we at ASDA, we do want to build on what's already available and signpost people to it. And then where there's a gap, develop, like you say, support that we can provide, like more bespoke support, shall we say, for event organizers. And in that particular case, so we realized that there was a real need, right, in the industry for there to be sensory accommodating spaces at events such as this. In first instance, we reached out to the Autism Centre of Excellence, and Professor Dawn Adams there was really, really helpful. And we discussed the dearth of information that there is and resources for organisers. So it's not that there was something there that people were not using or ignoring; it's that the resources they're not there, right? They're not yet.
It's a lack of resources right now.
Exactly, yeah. So, so we were really, really happy to be able to give, those little bits of guidance, and that you guys ran with it is really, really encouraging. And I'm really glad that, so many people have been using it and benefiting from it. I am an autistic ADHD woman, so when I come to events like this, I kind of like to suss out where those spaces are. And if it's not something that's laid on, I have to try and create something that will meet my needs in a way that I can figure out. But to have that accommodated without having to try and do that extra labor, right, of having to find, where I could go to recharge. Exactly, right. So, and it might not always be needed, but to know it's there can actually mean that it's not needed. And that sounds so right. So, but
just to have that, ease of knowing that if you need it, you can utilize it.
Exactly right, yeah. And also then there's the fact that if it's there and people are using it, there's the knock-on effects in terms of stigma, right? So, neurodivergent, it's coming more into society and people are talking about it more, but there still is a lot of stigma. Sometimes, if you're neurodivergent, it can be equated with capability, which we know is, couldn't be further from the truth.
It could not be further from the truth. So, I'd say one of my best friends, smartest person I know, and he's neurodivergent. Yeah. And I think there is such a negative stigma sometimes around it. Which I think just is lack of education, really, and amazing, alliances like yours are sort of breaking down those barriers and sort of educating people. Yeah, and that can be good for people trying to support others, but then also for people maybe who know that they have got certain needs themselves. They might not want to have, a label of any sort, and that's always, the person's preference if they want to choose to explore that or not. But it doesn't matter who you are, or that if you're going to benefit from having something like a low sensory space to go and recharge your batteries for a while. Amazing, let's all use it. Exactly. Yeah, and accommodations, that's the thing about all accommodations. They don't just help the people they're designed to help, they tend to be good for everyone. They make things easier for all participants. So exactly, it's not just neurodivergent people that can go and use these spaces. I know, honestly, sometimes I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to find just a quiet corner. Exactly right. Just to relax for a minute, because these type of events, they do get... sometimes you just want to recharge, you just need a second. Reset. 100%. Look, something I'd love to ask you, as a neurodivergent female leader, how has your identity influenced your experience in this workplace throughout your career? Look, I think the fact that I'm working for myself now which is amazing. But it's really just goes to show, though, how much easier it is to have a boss that understands what you need, even if that boss is yourself, right? I've had lots of different kinds of jobs. Obviously, academic kind of roles are suited, and that's the thing. People tend to seek out careers where they feel comfortable and where they can excel and where their brains are happy and where they feel like they can do good work. So in that case, academia is really well suited. So I guess if we're looking back, even when you were sort of doing your psychology, when you were being a school teacher as well, did you find that it was a bit of a struggle being neurodivergent with having acceptance, with people understanding, or even creating those spaces?
So I'm late diagnosed, which is really,
Okay.
really super common, right? So particularly in females or female presenting folk. It's really, really common for autism particularly and ADHD as well to not be diagnosed until after children are. Or until there comes a point maybe where there's so many different balls being juggling that cracks appear. So I wasn't diagnosed autistic or ADHD until after both of my children were.
Right.
So obviously I've always been who I am.
Yep.
But because I'm, a female presenting person, there are a lot of things that would have been picked up if I were a male.
Yeah.
Perhaps bearing in mind that there's also, of course, a lot of more education and awareness growing around autism particularly.
Yeah.
I'm super sociable.
Yes, I was gonna-
Right, and I'm an extrovert, and I like to come and chat with people. I'm not shy.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think that's not what autism is, right?
Because I know, females present quite differently. I know that there's an element of masking in there as well.
100%.
But also, not everyone's the same. I feel like there is that sort of stigma around people who are neurodivergent to say that they are quite quiet and reserved, maybe have a certain passion on a specific topic and nothing else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there are some, stigmas, I think, that a lack of education again.
100%,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, for that reason, it doesn't mean to say that my experiences were not still shaped by my identity as an autistic ADHD person. It was a lot harder when I didn't have those labels, because you just feel like and the support, right? So you just feel like you're not able to do as much as what other people might do in certain situations. So I can be the most extroverted, bubbly person in the room and love it and really love it, right?
Yeah.
But then I want to go home and not see people for 2 or 3 days and just really
to do the recharge.
Do the recharge.
Yeah.
But understanding that means you can plan your peaks and your troughs, and you can maximize both, right? And have it and make your life fit your needs in that kind of way.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then other things, I was identified as a gifted child, so gifted and quirky. When we now say it's
Gifted and quirky,
gifted
I
and
love
quirky. And again, a lot of that probably is to do with the stigmatism of certain labels. So to know that autism is not a bad word, and to say you're autistic is I'm very proud of it. My children talk about their privileges. So I've got 2 very beautiful boys.
Oh, lovely.
And we do like to talk about their privilege, right? So they've obviously lived in lots of countries. They're so cared for and so loved and supported and everything else. And my eldest, I was saying, let's talk about your privileges. And he was saying, well, I'm white, I'm male, I'm well educated, I've got educated parents, I have a home where I feel safe, I'm autistic, and that was one of his privileges that he listed.
I love that.
Which to me just
I think
meant,
that's beautiful.
He's so comfortable with who he is, and that's the generation that are coming up, right? So
Yeah.
it's like the industry better be ready for the
exactly.
next generation of
You better be
of
ready
young
for these
people,
trailblazers.
100%, right? Who are ready to work with their brain and in that way not have so much of the short-circuiting, right? That people have had to struggle with for so long. So it's a really exciting time for that whole kind of movement, I guess. Yeah,
definitely. Look, are your kids now, is space in their future? Have they talked about wanting to?
Space particularly, not really. My eldest wants to be a coder, he says, so he wants to be a software engineer, and that's
very cool.
It's aligned. He can
definitely aligned.
And that's an example of it doesn't really matter what your thing is. If he chooses to apply that to space, then he can do that.
He can go down.
Yeah, my youngest is 5, so I think he still wants to be a cat when he grows up. So we'll wait and see.
Now, wouldn't we love that?
That's right. But yes, space to them is normal, right? So
beautiful. Sheila, I know you mentioned earlier that the Australian Space Diversity Alliance does have a board observer program. I'd love to get a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, so it's a really exciting initiative, and it's a very new initiative. So our first, pilot of the board observer program is starting now. We were absolutely inundated with incredible applications for this, for the pilot. So really exciting to see that there's a real hunger for it, in the industry.
Yeah.
And actually the caliber of applications was so high that it's, I guess there was a lot of reflection among the National Committee and I guess the people that were appraising the different applications, and that the people who wanted to have this opportunity were people that potentially were not who we were initially, I guess, pitching it for, who were already advanced in their careers.
What do you mean by that? Who are you initially pitching it for?
So for people who were interested in leadership careers down the road, who were maybe earlier in their careers and who were starting to develop those skills and have that pathway for themselves, right? So maybe not necessarily established leaders who are already in that space as we would have seen it. But I guess the learning from that is that things like board rooms and board meetings, there's such a different skill set, and it's such a set of knowledge that it's difficult to obtain just through osmosis, right?
I feel like it can be a little bit daunting for a lot of people as well.
100%. And you can build out a company and you can build a product and you can sell it, and those things can build organically, right? There's lots of ways that you can access information on how to do those things, incubators and things. But actually that, I guess, higher level governance type skill building is there's not many ways to access it, particularly for free. So there are courses that you can do that cost quite a lot of money. So just in terms of an equity stance on that, it's kind of perpetuating the who you would traditionally think of as board members, and if they're the ones that can afford to do the training on it and the education and learn how to do that, do it well, do it safely, right? Because there are all of the legal ramifications as well. So that, again, it's a real gap. So Mitch on our national committee is sharing that, and oh my gosh, he's pulled it together so quickly, and it's such an amazing program. So and just, I guess, it's a sign of exciting things to come as well.
No, wonderful. And look, how is it that you guys have specifically tailored it to neurodivergent individuals?
Well, even in its very nature and the design of the program, it's very accessible and it's very inclusive. So, it's a board observer program, and in that way, things are laid out quite explicitly. So it's not it's not that you're in the right rooms with people and you can kind of pick it up, figure it out, but you're kind of told this is how it works, right? The agenda is how it works, like the papers before the board meetings, being in the board, what those discussions look like, the different types of processes that can happen. The information is there, it's not kind of gate kept, and that's that's what makes it really inclusive. And if there are, neurodivergent folk who maybe were interested in doing the board observer program with us and are generally interested in governance, there are other things as well. And we at the ASDA are really happy to signpost people to any supports that are available in Australia to support people. So I am an alumni of the Sylvia Rogers Academy out of the Autism CRC, the Cooperative Research Centre. And I did their governance program last year. So
incredible.
Yeah, it was such an amazing experience.
I was going to say, how was that experience for you? What does it look like as well?
Yeah, so, and what it is, I guess. So it's a program that's designed by autistic adults, for autistic adults who are in positions of leadership or who want to be and who want particularly to do things like sit on boards, and they want to get into that space, and again don't kind of know the ins and outs of it in terms of the legals and what everything, you have to have a lot of knowledge to do things properly, so you don't end up actually putting yourself at risk in terms of fiscal responsibilities and in terms of regulatory and legal responsibilities as well. So it was really incredible. That's been running for a few years. A curated group came together, and the most amazing people. We met online for months. I think 6 months. I think it was. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But and at the end, there was a residential weekend where we all came together. And again, that was a model in how to run events in a neuro-inclusive way. But yeah, it was really, really amazing. And we came together and did some mock board meetings and things like that, and
so
some
very
movie
hands-on
things.
then as well.
Very
You're doing like sort of mock
hands-on.
scenarios and
Yeah.
beautiful.
And then we did board observers then, observerships afterwards as well, and
Yeah.
a few people have joined relevant boards. So some people really in the advocacy space, so with like I guess autism organizations that are in that space and working with
Yeah.
it. But other people, that are in corporate governance and just really wanted to understand, maybe they're reporting to a board and they want to know what the board's looking for, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you think of things like anxiety and making sure you're prepared, knowing what you're supposed to be delivering to a board is really key to that. So knowledge sharing is what's key with all of these things. The more accessible the information is, the easier it is for everyone, right?
Beautiful. No, I couldn't agree more. And I'd assume then that throughout all these amazing, programs, there has been a level of mentorship. And I'd be really interested to know what your experience as a mentor or a mentee, officially and non-officially through programs and whatnot, has been like through your career as well.
Yeah, and again, I'm wildly different in different situations and different contexts, I guess. So I view mentorship as a very important thing. I think that particularly for myself, being who I am and being where I am in my career, I think it's a real responsibility not to forget to give back. I have benefited from so many people raising me up, right, through mentorship and support. So it's giving back, it's giving that back, and that can be, formally or informally. So through internships at Starbound, we offer internships, obviously student internships and those, usual ones, but we also offer internships to neurodivergent young people who are trying to figure out different pathways to kind of what am I going to be, right?
Oh, that's fantastic.
So one example that's just finishing up an internship, and I don't have consent to name him, so I won't name him, but he's really interested in art and science. He's in year 12, so he's still at school, and he's been helping us pulling together coding and art and coming up with an avatar kind of a thing, in terms of what it's doing for Starbound, but what we do in terms of dedicating an hour of our time every week to interns and to giving back that way is super important. But in the space industry, I have benefited from some amazing people, and even just in the last few years that we've been here in Australia.
Yeah.
So Starbound, we came through the Space Elevate and the Space Fast Start program at Cicada Innovations. Tim Parsons there is an incredible mentor. He's just been really, really fantastic. And then more close to home with this panel, Annie Daly is, you'll know that Annie gives back so much to so many people. She's so wildly experienced in all of the different kind of more policy and governance areas that I'm really interested in, and she's been a fantastic mentor for me.
So Sheila, at the end of each episode, I'd love to ask, based on everything we've discussed today, what's one key insight or piece of advice you'd like to leave with our lovely listeners?
I guess the most important thing is that there's room and space for everybody, right? So if it's something that you're interested in making a career, in just getting to know more of the community, and there are such pockets of support in the community and resources available, support available. So reach out. The ASDA National Committee are all really, really welcoming and open to people contacting and saying, hey, I'd love to get involved. We have a wider Friends of ASDA group, and it's a lovely bunch of like-minded people in the industry. We're always welcome new, new people who are interested in getting to know us all.
Thank you so much, Sheila, honestly. I loved your insights, and I'm sure everyone listening has as well. But unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Sheila, for your amazing insights. And look, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode and more incredible voices and amazing stories to come.